Greetings and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much indeed for joining Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa, where we discuss pertinent issues of peace and sustainability around the world and across Africa. I'm George Mutalemwa, moderating this session on behalf of Africa Peace and Development Network.
Good afternoon so much, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laid.
Good afternoon to all of you.
I'm fine. Our theme today is spirituality, the path to global peace. And the speaker is Dr. Eunice Kamaara, who is Professor of African Christian Ethics at Moi University in Eldoret, Kenya. It's nice to see you, Eunice. It's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for finding some time to talk to us, to being with us. And I welcome everybody here on board. You are welcome to begin sharing your screen. It's a pleasure having you. And so after your about 45 minutes or so, we'll have a chance to ask you questions and talk with you, have a conversation about spirituality and peace. So thank you so much indeed, and you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, George. First, for inviting me to be part of this, and also for the introduction. I'm hoping that everybody can see my slides. We share from my end or from Peter's end?
We're sharing from your end, and it seems to work fine. Would you prefer that I run it, or would you like to do it?
Okay, I can run it.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Yes. So like George has said, we would like to talk about spirituality as a key to global peace. First, some philosophical underpinnings so that we are all clear on where we are coming from in this conversation. And I'll begin by throwing a question to all of us. What do you see on the screen? You can just unmute yourself and shout, or you can put it on the chat and Peter or George could help us see the responses. What do you see? What is this?
I see a snail as the house where the snail stays. A shell.
You see
Shell.
a shell. A shell. Anybody with a different idea? Thank you, Prof. Or we all see a shell. Okay, I'll go back to Professor Serem, David, and say,
Yeah.
How do you know? Why do you know it's a shell? How do you know?
Because from experience, I've seen so many shells like that. And that is why when I see it, I see a shell and I remember a snail that is probably staying inside it.
So when you see it, you remember a snail, and this is because of experience. Yes. Supposing somebody has had a different experience with this item that we have on the screen, do you think they would call it what you call it?
Probably yes, because everything actually depends on one's experience, Prof.
Yes.
So I would not be saying that I'm 100% perfect. In my experience, I think it is a shell of a snail. But somebody else may be looking at it differently based on their experiences out there.
Okay. Good. Anybody who knows how somebody else or who has a different meaning attached to the thing that is on the screen? Anybody else who has a different perspective? Because what David has presented is one perspective. There is another perspective and another perspective and another perspective. So we are looking for a second, third perspective. Anybody? In Africa, especially.
Peter has raised his hand. So
good.
Peter,
it could be a musical instrument.
It could be a musical instrument.
It could be percussive or wind.
It could be excellent. Anything
else?
It
could be a nice meal.
It could even be a nice meal. Somebody sees it and they get hungry. Somebody sees it and they think, oh, I'll be bewitched. I'm dead. I'm finished, especially in Africa. So the meaning that we attach to the something that is on the screen is very much dependent on our experience. And it's not just natural things or things that we have not created to which we behave like that. Even when we have another exhibit like this, we have another exhibit. What is on the screen now? What is this?
Like a glass.
Like a glass. You sound hesitant, George. You are not sure. Why are you not sure? Why are you saying it's like a glass?
It was somebody else.
Oh, it was not George.
It was me. It looks like a glass, Prof.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kwena. Yes, it's like a glass. Why are you hesitant, Professor Kwena? Why are you saying it's a glass?
I'm not hesitant. I think from the look of it, it's a glass that you can hold.
From the look of it, it's a glass. And I happen to know your disciplinary background, so I expected that certainty. I expected you to be so certain. This is a glass, yeah? But if we move a little further and ask, what do we use it for? Or when you see it, what do you think about? What comes to your mind? Anybody can
milk.
Professor,
when I look at it, I feel like I want a glass of milk in it.
A glass. Professor thinks about milk when they see this glass. It is glass. It has no milk in it as of now. But when he sees it, he thinks about milk and drinking milk. Somebody else might be thinking of beer. As we are talking, somebody is feeling very thirsty now because that other person is not seeing a glass of milk, but a stain, a glass for beer, for taking beer. Depending on your experiences, depending on what you like, depending on what you take, this thing has different meanings. And I can also tell all of us who have said it's a glass that we are all wrong because this is not a glass. What we have on the screen is not in a glass. Do you want to know what it is?
Yes.
Yes. So what is on the screen is a picture of a glass. There's no glass. If you reach out and touch it, you won't get a glass. If you try to put milk on it, you won't make much progress because it's only a drawing. The glass is only in our mind. The shell is only in our mind. Whether we see witchcraft or we see a snail or we get hungry, all that is what is happening in our minds. Finally, we have another exhibit, exhibit 3. Exhibit 3 is a social scene. There are people there. I guess we can all agree that those are people. But what are they doing? What is this scene about?
They seem to be praying.
They are praying. Why do you think they are praying?
I see, what it seems like their eyes are closed and they're looking down and they're kneeling down. Yeah.
Does it mean that every time you kneel and look down, you're praying?
Yes, because you are submitting to some spirit of some God or somehow. You are just, humbling yourself down.
Okay. Okay, let's say it's prayer. Anybody else with a different idea?
Yes, there.
Yes, actually, yes. In China, many people worship like this, and they worship the family, peace, and the money, and the lucky. I think many Chinese worship the money. It's more, yes.
Wonderful, excellent. You see, so we have different ideas. Yeah. Please go on.
And Paul Nyongeza has raised his hand.
Yes.
Thank you very much. If I can join in the discussion, I think from the answer of your second exhibit, I can just take this to be a picture. Maybe you just took a photograph of the real event and posted it here, just from what you said.
Wonderful. And you have said it because of the experience we have just had a few minutes ago. If we didn't have that experience, you probably wouldn't have responded like that. So we see things depending on our experiences. We interpret things depending on how we see them and what they mean to us, depending on what we have thought about them. So I'd like us to, as we get into this conversation, to remember that we are talking about peace, which is a social reality. It is not a physical reality. It is a social reality, perhaps a spiritual reality. It is something we cannot put our hands on. And remember, it's not just the absence of war. It's possible that there is no war, but you are unhealthy. For example, you're sick. If you're sick, you have no peace, really. You may have no peace. I'm not saying you don't have peace. You may have peace, but very often you may not have peace. So it is a social reality, which we can interpret differently, which we can see differently, which we can construct differently, which is why we are saying that social reality like peace is a social construction. It is constructed in our thoughts, in our reflections. When we reflect on our thoughts, we get to have convictions, beliefs, which are very strong, that this is a glass and nobody can tell me otherwise. Because you have thought about it, you have reflected around it, you have gotten a strong conviction. And on the basis of your strong conviction, you can interpret reality and respond to that reality. You can take action on the basis of that which you have believed because you have reflected on your thoughts. Now, social reality is also fluid and dynamic. At one point, people may be kneeling to play, but at another point, they may not be kneeling. Things change, but they are still playing. At some point, somebody may close their eyes. I used to close up my eyes when I was in prayer until I joined the Roman Catholic Church. And now I open my eyes really wide when it's time for prayer. I guess there are also people who open their eyes wide because we've learned that when your eyes are closed, a lot of things can go wrong. So reality is dynamic, it changes. Social reality changes. And social reality is about very many complex truths. So we talk about social reality as being multiple realities. And like when you say this is a grass, when we look at the substance out of which it's made, we can agree it's glass. It's glass. But when we start asking, what does it mean? What does it remind you of? What sense do you make out of this glass? Then there are very many truths. For some people, it's milk. For some people, it's witchcraft. So for some people, it's a snail, which they are indifferent to. They may not be interested in eating. Hunger will not be, or feeling hungry is not one of the things that some people will respond to when they see a shell. And each one of them has their truth. You can't tell me to eat a snail if I don't eat snails. It's not, I won't take it because that's not my truth. My truth is different. So in social sciences and humanities, we talk about social reality, which is complex and which is made up of very many truths. And peace is a social science phenomenon. It is social reality. Now, the exciting thing about social reality is it has to do with human beings. Human beings are the ones who learn social sciences. They learn humanities. They learn a share and they give meaning to it. Perhaps animals also do. Perhaps even plants do. We don't know. But for now, we are clear that human beings sit to study glass, see how it responds to heat, see how it responds when you crush it down, and so on. So we are talking about the human person as the person who is studying this reality, who is behaving, who is acting, who is thinking. Now, each person, each human being, each individual is multiple. You are not one, you are many people in one. In a very simple way, we can say you have a body, there is you, the body, there is you, the mind, and there is you, the spirit. Those are already 3 persons. But even beyond that, there are very many other persons within you. You've heard about psychology and people's personalities. Yeah. There are people who have dual personality. And I don't think it's just some people. I think almost all of us have different personalities depending on the stimulus around us. Sometimes we are very happy because of what is happening around us, and we behave in a different way from when we are bored, or from when we are angry, or from when we are hungry. You know, anything that causes stimulus to us creates another person. So within the individual persons are many persons, so that even one person is not just a social being, but is on their own multiple beings within one being. With that philosophical background, I'd like to give you a story that I love telling. I've probably told some of you this story. It's about searching where it is not. So in this context, we are asking, are we searching for peace where it is not? A story is told of a drunkard man who was going home, and then he stopped at a lamppost and started going around looking for something. The lamppost was lit, like the one we see on the screen. And the man turned around, went around the post, searching. And from a distance, a policeman who was keeping order in the night decided, well, I wonder what is happening to this man. Perhaps I should go and help him find what he's looking for. He's clearly looking for something. Let me go help him find what he's looking for so that he can go away and I can have some peace. Because as a policeman, he wasn't at peace, thinking that somebody is around. What does he want? What is he doing? So he went in search of peace and found the drunkard and asked him, hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. Yes, what are you doing? And the man said, I'm looking for my keys. So the policeman said, all right, I'll help you find the keys. Let's look. So the policeman joined the man and they started going around the lamppost looking for the keys. They looked for the key, they looked for the key, they looked for the key. And at some point, the policeman was like, that key can't be here. We've looked everywhere. So he turned to the drunkard and asked him, my friend, is this where you lost your key? And the drunkard replied, no, I didn't lose it here. I'm looking for it here because this is where there is light. So the drunkard was looking for the key where there is light. And for a while, he had managed to fool the policeman, and together they were looking for the key where the key was not. It reminds me of Mahatma Gandhi saying that there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And I've replaced way with key in this context. That there is no key to peace. Peace is the key. In this context, peace is the key to development. If you ask me, the most important sustainable development goal is the one that talks about peace. Because it's only in the context of peace that hunger will be dealt with, that health will be dealt with, that inequalities will be dealt with, that gender injustices will be dealt with, that all the sustainable development goals will be addressed. But it would appear like we are searching for the key, we are searching for peace where it is not. We are looking for it where there is light, because it's the easier place to search. But that is not where we lost our key. We need to find our key where we lost it. So we realize that in our current situation, we have all kinds of global crises. And this is in spite of a lot of scientific and technological advancements, including AI. Who would have thought of AI even just internet. Who would have thought of internet? But we have the internet with us, we have AI, there are all kinds of scientific and technological advancements. Still, we have war in latent and active forms. Latent, when it is underneath, it's just brewing underneath and it is waiting to burst. And even active, where we have war that has actually bursted out and people are literally fighting. We have ill health, in spite of all the science, all the health advancements. A few years back, we had to close the whole country, the whole world, to deal with COVID. In spite of all advancements in health, HIV is still a challenge. Just the other day, I was listening to my governor say that my county has one of the most fastest increasing rate of HIV infection. It's like HIV is coming again. You know, you are like, wow. With all the advancements, and much more lately, we have seen the pandemic of mental health. A lot of mental health challenges all around us. You see them manifested in people killing one another, people doing all sorts of things, and you're like, what's happening? This is a pandemic. There's poverty and there's hunger. Something so basic as poverty, food. Yeah, lack of basic needs. How does that happen when we have so much resource in this world? There's a lot of resources. Think about the food that is there in the whole world. If it was to be divided or shared by need rather than by greed, it would be enough for all of us. You can see all of these things, all these crises. I've just mentioned the three probably most critical, but these crises are manifestations of injustices and inequalities. In Kenya, for example, where I am sitting now in Eldoret, we normally produce a lot of food, a lot. It's the breadbasket of the country. But barely 100 kilometers away, people are dying of hunger, real hunger as we talk. We have hunger in Lodwar, for example. Some parts of Baringo, we have hunger. Those are very few distances away from Eldoret. Meanwhile, in Eldoret, people are throwing away food. They can't sell it. They are queuing for long hours to sell their food. They can't sell it. And this is not just the story of the global north and the global south and all that. Even within each country, there is a global north and a global south. Yeah, if you think of global north and global in terms of the haves and the have-nots. So we have manifestations of inequalities, and these are marks of unhealthy relationships, poor relationships. Yeah. Yet, knowledge and skills, we pursue knowledge and skills at any cost. And yet, knowledge and skills minus healthy relationships equals unsustainable development. We cannot have development even if we spell out all the sustainable development goals, even if we talk from the rooftops or from wherever, as long as we are not taking care of our relationships, healthy relationships, we are not going to make any headway. We'll just be going around in circles from Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals to whatever. So we see elusive peace and development in our world today. And how are we responding to that? We are responding by saying, no, we want to focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that seems to become the dominant thought, that if we don't have STEM education and STEM research and STEM development policies with a lot of funding, we are not going anywhere. You hear some lone voices proposing STEAM. A short while back, there was a big move towards STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But that still hasn't sold. We are still interested in STEM. Another voice has come and is talking about STEAMs, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, and social sciences, or spirituality if you wish. You can even add another S. But that is not selling. Why are these things not selling? Because we want to deal with STEM, because STEM is very much about the body. It emphasizes material things we can touch, things we can see, things we can relate with in a very easy way. We don't need to do a lot to recognize the body. All of us love our bodies very much. We clothe them, we dress them, we put food in them because we can see it. We can see when we are smart. And other people also tell us you're smart. We can feel when we are hungry. So it's very easy to see the needs of the body. It's like looking for the key at the lamppost. It's easy. We like the easy things, looking for things where there is light. So we put a lot of emphasis. We don't make queries about natural science. We don't make queries about STEM. We are comfortable with anything material. We can see it, we can touch it, we can breathe it, we know it. Yeah. We want knowledge on things, but we don't want knowledge about being. We are not learning anything about being. Lessons on being will be found very much in the humanities, some bit in the social sciences, a lot more in spirituality will be where you find the domain on being. But we are not interested in that. It's a little too dark for us. We want to be looking where there is light. So what has happened is that we have neglected morality, we have neglected emotional development, we have neglected spiritual development in all its dimensions. And incidentally, because indigenous knowledge have a lot to do with spiritual dimensions of knowledge and dimensions of reality, humanities and social dimension, then we have contempt for indigenous knowledge or knowledges. There are many knowledges. So we are moving with science and technology, with engineering and mathematics, without a moral compass. Now we are doing a lot of coding lately and doing great things with the codes. Amazing things. We can predict when COVID is going to happen. But remember, COVID is not merely a natural phenomenon. It's also a social phenomenon. How we control it has a lot to do with how we relate with one another. We learned this last time COVID struck. We learned that how we relate with the other person, if we care for the other person, we wear our masks. The other person wears their mask. And that way we stop COVID from spreading. Much, much easier than thinking about vaccines, than thinking about cure, with all the byproducts of all that. And I'm not saying vaccines are bad. I'm not saying medicine is bad, but I'm saying that we have to look at other perspectives to disease, to ill health, to lack of peace. They are not just natural causes. There are also issues to do with relationships, which is why we are saying science is created for humans, and humans are multiple, as we have said. It will be created for individual persons, but also for social groups, many people together. So if you want to study something natural, even when you want to study something like Latin, as Pope John Paul told us, you don't just need to know Latin. For you to teach Latin to the youth, you don't just need to know Latin, you must also know the youth. The people for whom you are teaching Latin or to whom you are teaching Latin. So if we are developing science and technology, we have to remind ourselves all the time, for who are we doing this? Do we know that person for whom we are creating this car? Incidentally, as individuals, sometimes we may not be interested in certain things. We want to buy certain cars, for example, not because of what we want, but because of what we think others want to see. So you buy a big car because you want other people to see you with a big car. It's not so much about your own comfort. It's very much about what will others say, what will others think. Yeah. Will they think I'm rich? Will they think I'm poor? Will they think? Those are social reflections, social realities. They are only in the minds of people. They are not out there. Very often, people don't even notice the car you drive, by the way, or even the dress you wear. Sometimes as women, we take forever to come out of the house changing dresses because we are thinking we need people to see us looking very smart. But those people sometimes don't even care. They don't think about you anyway. But anyway, it's a good thing to think about what people say, but it's much more important to know people, to know yourself as a human being and to know other persons so that you have knowledge of being. Beyond knowledge of things, you also have knowledge of being. And I will emphasize again here that social reality is constructed. It is not given. The shell may be given, but what it means is something that will be constructed. And what it means is what makes people do what they do with the shell. So it's much more important even than the shell. So reality is constructed, it is interpreted, it is fluid. It is not static. Today it's here, tomorrow it's not there. Tomorrow it's red, tomorrow it's a different color. And it has very many complex truths. We want to be able to remember all that. But all these things are brought together by the human person. And the human person, the most complex aspect of the human person is in spirituality. If we look at African spirituality, I don't know whether it's African or it is spirituality for all indigenous communities. It may not just be African, it may be for indigenous communities, but it has been propounded as African spirituality in the books that I have read. In these books, spirituality is defined as beliefs and values that cultivate healthy relationships within the self. Remember, we said an individual is multiple. So within you, there are many persons. At least there are two persons, if nothing else. And every one of us can attest to that. There is always somebody who communicates with you at all times. Even now, as I speak, there is somebody inside you who is talking to you about me and asking you what I am saying. That's your second person. The self has many humans within it. So there are beliefs and values which can help you cultivate healthy relationships with yourself so that you are at peace with yourself. Some values, some beliefs and values are positive. In this context, that is what I'm referring to as spirituality. There are also negative beliefs and negative values which work the other way, the opposite of that. So thinking of positive spirituality, every one of us is influenced by our beliefs and by our values. If we cultivate the good values, the right beliefs, it means we will live at peace with ourselves. We will be happy with ourselves. We'll be comfortable with ourselves, comfortable in our own skin. You don't need anybody else to validate you. You only need yourself to validate yourself. You can always call yourself to a meeting and tell yourself how important you are, how happy you are, how peaceful you are, so that you have a relationship with yourself that is promoting the positive beliefs and values. You also think of spirituality as cultivating healthy relationships through beliefs and values with other human beings. We live with other human beings. A lot of what we do, like I have just said, is dependent on what other people think about us, think about themselves, think about the environment around them. If you have a healthy relationship with other human beings, you will have peace. So certain beliefs and certain values are positively related to healthy relationships. And we are saying those are the beliefs and the values that we need to identify and pursue so that we can then be at peace, not just with ourselves, but also with other human beings. It is not enough to be at peace with yourself and with other human beings. You also need to be at peace with other so-called living things, animals, plants, birds of the air, worms in the soil. All those things are very important, and cultivating a healthy relationship with them, is what gives us more peace. We become more peaceful. Indigenous societies know this. They knew this before we came up with strong theories of strong theories of ecology, even before we came up with those terms. Indigenous communities knew that when I see this worm, I don't need to destroy it, because when it burrows under the soil, it helps the soil become fertile. When I see this kind of animal, I know this is going to happen. When I see this kind of butterflies, I know it's coming to rain, so I should get ready to harvest if the maize is in the field and it's dry. I should take time to plant. They knew, but we have dismissed indigenous knowledge as primitive. Yeah, so we need to think back about the beliefs and the values that would help us cultivate a healthy relationship with other living things, but also other non-living things. Indigenous communities were interested in non-living things. In fact, they recognized that stones, mountains, even rivers had vital force. And if you did something wrong to them, they could fight back. We are all familiar with the Nobel Peace Prize, the only African woman Nobel Peace Prize winner, Professor Wangari Maathai. He told us that nature fights back. If we treat nature badly, nature will fight back. We treat our seas badly, the seas will fight. We treat our rivers badly, the rivers will fight. We treat trees badly, we treat things, rocks badly, they are going to fight. We may call them non-living things, but they have vital force. And it's not just those natural things like mountains and rivers, even something like a table. You mistreat a table, and the table at some point may find a way of taking revenge. So you need to have a healthy relationship with non-living things. Finally, there is the transcendent. Trying to distinguish between spirituality and religion, I would like to define the transcendent as something greater than oneself. Something superhuman, beyond the human. You and I, we agree we are human. Do we believe there is something bigger, there is something greater than us? Whether we call it God, whether we call it whatever it is, we call it, it doesn't matter. Even if we don't call it anything, just acknowledging that I, as a human being, I am limited. There is another force out there. So I'm not enough to give myself peace. I should be thinking about how else, what else, which else I need to work with, I need to journey with, to be more at peace with myself, so that I can then be at peace with other human beings, at peace with other living things, and at peace with non-living things. So we make deliberate effort to find peace outside ourselves. Remember, we found it within ourselves. But we also should be able to look out, and when we see the wind, for example, we feel, wow, this wind is powerful. I wonder what the power is behind the wind. Or we just look at green grass, and we look at green grass and we say, this grass is beautiful. Or the skies are beautiful. The moon is beautiful. That music is beautiful. To recognize power outside ourselves, so that we are not thinking we are on our own self-sufficient. We are on our own enough. We need to be able to look out and find peace to complement that peace which is within ourselves. So we have a lot that we can borrow from indigenous frameworks for peace. What I have just described is African spirituality. And African spirituality is drawn from the concept of an ethical community. A community in indigenous Africa was not a community of people. It was not just people. A community had people, it had animals, it had plants, it had things. And a healthy relationship was maintained across all these realities, all these things in existence. And within the African worldview, we have the concept of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu recognizes that I am nothing on my own. I need the other. I need these trees. I need these rivers. I need this person. I need the wind. I need the sun. I need everything that is created because my life is dependent on them as much as their life is dependent on mine. And therefore, Ubuntu says, I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am. Simply put, as I am because we are. We are not just human beings, but everything within the created order. So indigenous communities would help us in promoting spiritual approaches to peace. And the first thing we need to be asking ourselves towards embracing spirituality as the core of our being is to ask ourselves, who am I? These are called the ultimate questions of human existence. Who am I? Identity. Who are you? Very often we recognize ourselves as bodies, which is easy. Even in medicine, it's very easy to think about medicine for the body, biomedicine. But the human person is not just the body, they also have the mind. And therefore, it is possible for the mind to be unhealthy. By the way, I would like you to remember that psychiatry was not even recognized as medicine until a few hundreds of years back. It was isolated. It was where spirituality is today. Like this one, we can't tell. This looks like witchcraft. It looks like indoctrination. We can't put our hands on it. So when psychiatry came out initially, and at that point, by the way, it was led by religious people. It was very much practiced by monks. Psychiatry was like, this is pseudo-medicine. But today, psychiatry is mainline medicine because we've gotten to understand, yes, there's a brain, which we can study physically. But beyond the brain, we also have the psyche. We have the mind. And the mind is something we've begun to understand in the last few years, and therefore we have opened our doors a little to accommodate psychology, psychiatry, and all those things of the mind and the brain. Yeah, and you find many psychiatrists wanting to learn more into issues of the brain because the brain is physical. It's where the light is. It's where it's easy to find your keys. But of course, you won't find them either. That is not where they got lost. It's very difficult to study what you can't see, what you can't touch. Because it causes you to believe that it exists even before you see it. But physical things are very easy to study. You see them, you touch them, you break them, you do whatever you do. But these things which you cannot see, even using a microscope or using any equipment available in the human world today, it doesn't mean they don't exist just because you don't know them. Because to say they don't exist because you don't know them is to say something needs to be known by you for it to exist, for it to be real. And at that point, what you're saying is that there is no king beyond you. There is no power beyond you. There's no knowledge beyond you. And of course, we know that becomes a pitfall. Even in academics, we say skepticism is a good thing because it creates curiosity. And curiosity is what leads to new knowledge. Without curiosity, there will be no new knowledge. So I'm appealing to us to be curious about spirituality, even though it is an invisible reality. It is something we can't see even with the best of machine. Because ultimately, the human person is very much of a spiritual being, much more than he's a physical being. The physical, because we see it, because we can touch it, we put a lot of emphasis in it. But we need to tap into our inner being, we who are within us, and we hear that being in us on very many occasions, especially when we have issues of ethical behavior, when we are talking about character values. Very often, not very often, it is all the time, all the time. Whenever you do a bad thing, something you know is bad, you could even be wrong, thinking it's bad when it is not bad. But as long as you know it is wrong and you do it, you will tell yourself, the spirit in you, the second person in you in form of spirit will tell you that you have done a wrong thing. It will condemn you for sure. And we know it does that all the time. If you do a good thing, the inner person, the being in you will tell you, you have done a good thing. Well done, well done. You've done a good thing. It will tell you that. Or that person in you will tell you that. Why do we want to ignore that person when we know that that person is forever with us and forever giving us direction and forever guiding us, forever condemning us when we are wrong? When we are doing the wrong thing, when we are going the wrong way, the better person in us, which is a spiritual person, is always available to tell us, well done. Or to tell you, that one, I don't agree with you. You didn't do the right thing. Values like compassion, being compassionate, being forgiving, being kind to other people. They have actually, as of today, they have actually been experimented empirically, and it has turned out that when you are kind, for example, that single act of kindness has implications on 3 people, 3 different people. They'll have implications on you, the doer, the person who has done a kind thing. You feel good. The spirit in you tells you, well done, my son. Well done, my daughter. Well done, brother. Well done, sister. It will recognize. You will be the first person to reap the benefits of kindness. The second person that reaps the benefits of kindness is the person you are kind to. If you're kind to a beggar, for example, you give them something, you will feel good that you have done the right thing. The beggar will feel good. You'll be like, wow, that's a good man. He has given me food. I am happy. They'll be uplifted, not just in body, but much more in spirit. The third person, and this is research that was done on kindness around New York streets. I'll tell you in a short while how it was done. But the third person that benefits from a single act of kindness is the onlooker. Can you imagine? The observer. The person observing that act of kindness feels good. They didn't do it. It wasn't done on them, but they feel good just because they observed. And I would like you to do this experiment on your own, at your own time. Yeah, because this is the experiment that was done in New York. Some situation was created where a young man bounced into an old woman who was carrying some fruits, and the fruits splattered all over the ground, all over the street. And this young man who had knocked on him walked away. He didn't care. But there was another young man who was coming and saw what happened. And he quickly went to the ground and collected all the oranges or the fruits for this woman, gave them to the woman, dusted her dress, and left her to go on her way. Then the people who are doing the experiment interviewed this man who had collected the fruits for this woman. How do you feel about what you have just done? And the person was like, I feel very nice. I'm very happy I could help. I'm very privileged to have been there to be the one to collect those fruits for that old lady. Then they talked to the old lady. How did you feel? Oh, I'm so happy about this young man. I didn't know they are young men who are responsible anymore. He was so kind to me. She felt very good. But they also talked to a few of the people who are around there who observed this single act of kindness. They were all very happy. Their spirits were uplifted and they felt very peaceful. So many people went home feeling at peace because of a single act of kindness conducted by one person. That is what one person can do. One person can spread peace in an instance across a big group of people. And for sure, I can tell you that without peace, there can be no development. And peace will not come without spirituality. Spirituality is what grows peace. Healthy relationships with yourself, with other people, with other things, and with the Holy Other. So then how do we move from my peace and the peace of individuals to global peace? Well, we still have to start with I, myself. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Where did I come from? When you ask yourself those questions around identity and meaning of your life, you begin to reflect and to be mindful of yourself and of others who share in your humanity. You realize that I and others are united, are together as one, and therefore we need to relate well with one another. I need to relate well with myself. I need to relate with the others who are my fellow humans, because we have a common origin, we have a common destiny. And with that self-reflection and mindfulness, then you exercise self-control. You are in charge of what happens to you 90% of the time, perhaps 99% of the time. Whether you get angry because somebody abused you, it depends very much not on the person who has abused you or that they have abused you, but on what you process in your mind. Remember what we said about social construction? When somebody shouts at you, your mind goes into hyperdrive and you ask yourself, why is he shouting at me? Am I so useless? What does he mean? This is what he means. You give yourself all the wrong things, you hype yourself, and before long, you are very angry. Very, very angry. It is not the abuse that has made you angry. It is the thought of what has happened. You could have taken a different route. You could have looked at it and said, well, he could be right. Maybe I'm stupid, but that is his. It has nothing to do with me. That is his opinion. Truth is multiple. If that is his truth, I'm fine with it. I know I am not stupid, and therefore my opinion is different. At that point, you won't even get angry. And anger, by the way, is at some point is mental illness. So we bring ourselves illness because we are not looking for peace within ourselves. We are trying to find it in other people. We are trying to find it in things out there, which we put in our mind, imagine them, begin processing it in the negative, and ultimately we are depressed. Ultimately we are unhappy. Ultimately we are. So we need to think about inner peace and spread it in the immediate within our family. Of course, it's very difficult within our families because those people are around us all the time. But that is where we test it first, outside ourselves, because these are people we love. The people we live with are people we love, first and foremost. So if we can spread it within our families, keep reflecting and being mindful of what is it we are doing to members of our family, to our children, to our spouses, to our in-laws. What are we doing to them? Reflect and be mindful and think about having healthy relationships with them and exercise self-control. Once you have made it at the family level, it is very easy to rise beyond the family to the community level. Very often, wars are started by very small quarrels, minor quarrels. Two people, very often it's just two people who argue, and more people come and take sides, and it becomes two groups. Before long, it becomes two big groups. Before you know it, a country is fighting with another country. In the same way, we can start peace within ourselves, peace within our families, peace within our communities, peace within our nations, peace across the globe. And we won't get there until we recognize how interconnected we are with one another, that your peace is dependent on my peace. COVID tried to tell us that, but we didn't seem to catch it. We don't seem to have gotten it well. But COVID told us we die together or we survive together. There was the talk of we are in this together from the global south, and very often people thought, oh, you're saying we're in this together, but when the vaccines comes, they are yours. You become selfish. You're saying we're in this together, but when it comes to closing flow of funding, you do this. But if everybody think of themselves as interconnected with the other person, and that their peace, their own peace is tied to the peace of the other, then we are likely to get there. There are very many tools of supporting us in the strive to get peace. Some of them are religious, others may not. I have used the illustration of music, prayer, and meditation. Perhaps you say you are not into music. Perhaps you say you are not religious, or you are not into prayer and meditation. There's what we talk about as self-talk. In fact, prayer is very much like self-talk, as Professor Nyongesa likes to say. You're talking to yourself. You're having a conversation with yourself. You're having an inner dialogue, which is what we have just talked about, self-reflection and mindfulness. You are thinking about yourself, inside yourself, and having a conversation with yourself and telling yourself what you will choose. Will you choose to think positively or negatively? Will you choose healthy relationships or unhealthy relationships? Music and prayer brings together emotions and unity. You become united as one person. Then the different person in you are not in conflict. One is not saying you've done a bad thing. They are in harmony. They are working together. When we practice music, which is normally harmonious, we talk about music as being harmonious. When we sing music or we listen to music, it helps us bring our united self together. And we begin to feel peace, even when we are not feeling very at peace. When we think about prayer, the same thing happens. It aligns our thoughts and our actions together with peace. It generates peace that aligns our thoughts together. Those who study mental health will talk about different persons within the person not being in harmony. There's lack of harmony, even in the things that you're doing. Even in the things that you are thinking, they are not synchronized. So spiritual tools like music and prayer and meditation help us to bring together our unity into a oneness that is all but peace. So what then do we recommend? We say that we need to prioritize spiritual education. There isn't much of spiritual education in our world today. If you look at our curriculum, we don't see much of spiritual education, and yet it's something we need for families, we need it in school environments, we need it in hospital, and we need it in workplaces. At the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, which is the main teaching hospital for my employer, Moi University, we are just beginning to integrate spiritual care. We are trying to see that not just patients, but even everybody working within the hospital setting gets to appreciate spiritual care and how it works towards holistic health and well-being. We need to integrate spirituality with science if we want holistic and sustainable development. Otherwise, we'll move forward with this only to find that we lagged behind in this. Right now, we are moving very fast with data science and coding and all that. But sooner than later, we will realize how dangerous it is to have so much data, so much interconnected data when people are not interconnected ethically or morally, because then that data becomes a tool that can be used to destroy the whole world in an instance. We need to have a balance and move together, integrating spirituality and science. Spirituality, social science, all the science that we can know, anything, any knowledge that we can lay our hearts in, we need to see how it relates to this and the other knowledge in meeting human needs. Of course, we need to prioritize attention, prioritize research, and prioritize funding to promoting spirituality. In conclusion, I note that peace and development without spirituality is not sustainable. We note that each person holds the key to peace within yourself, because until you have peace within yourself, you can't have it outside. It begins from within yourself. And then from within you, peace will flow out to the globe, to the superhuman others, to all other animals and birds and all creatures, big and small, to all plants, and to all things, and ultimately to the supernatural other, whoever you call it. And ultimately, we can have global peace. Well, even as we are living in the world today, with all the challenges that we began with all the hunger around us, with all the war around us, with all the challenges around us, imagine it is possible to have peace. To close the conversation, I'll tell you a story. Story. Are we there? Story.
Yes.
Story for the store.
We
Store
are
come.
there, Eunice. We are there.
Yes.
Eunice.
Yes, we are all there.
Very good.
And very much present.
Very good. Thank you. I'll tell you a story of a bird.
Okay.
It's a true story about some British engineers who are repairing a railway track. And as they hit at the iron and did this to straighten it and do this, they were making, of course, a lot of noise. And trains, anyway, were passing through the rail. So it was an active rail. So there was a lot of noise. But as they turned the metal around to do something about repairing it, they saw a small bird that had built its nest under the rail. And within that nest, the bird had some eggs. And the bird was sitting on her eggs quietly and peacefully. Guess what? Even the noise of the train, even the noise of the engineers as they repaired the rail, it did not disturb the bird. The bird remained there at peace, sitting on her eggs and thinking, one day, just one day, my eggs will be hatched and my sweet little birds will fly away in peace. Similarly, you and I can be at peace in spite of all the challenges around us, knowing that one day, just one day, we'll fly away. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed, Eunice, for this excellent presentation. And I'm so glad you touched upon a number of very important issues, beginning with the philosophical underpinnings. Like, what do you see? What is that? And what makes you, say that's a glass or a shell, And then how do you search for peace? You search for it in the light, where there is light, or even in darkness. But you also talked about sustainable development goals. And you said actually that peace is actually that aspect that you find quite interesting. Of course, you also touched upon global crisis. You talked about Ubuntu, which actually comprises of relationships, not only with people, amongst people, but also with nature as a whole. And among the things that you mentioned was music. And I found that quite interesting because from one person, actually, one person said that music is composed of three parts: harmony, rhythm, and melody. And this person said harmony is European, rhythm is African, melody is Asian. Now I would like to open this floor for discussions, for questions and comments. You may actually stop sharing the screen and
thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Then we can see each other because you were asking, are you there? Or you thought probably you were left alone.
Yes,
No,
I thought
we
I
are
was
there,
not alone.
alive and kicking.
Yes.
So who would like to begin?
I want to start.
Please.
I want to start by thanking Professor Kamaara for wonderful presentation. I didn't think I was going to sit over it for 1 hour, but I said because what she was talking about is peace. And I could not agree with her more because without peace, there is nothing that can be done in the world. Peace is required now, especially because the world is becoming global. So if the ingredient of peace is not there, then it is going to be extremely difficult. So, Professor, I really want to thank you so much for this presentation. I have been clapping my hands and say, hey, this is really great. I wish you will have an opportunity to share with us your notes so that we can read it for ourselves, because I think it is very important. I got a little bit confused, Prof. Maybe you need to help us. Because when I look at spirituality, it looks like, what is the difference between with religion? It looks like we are talking about the same thing. So maybe you can clarify that to me. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say something. May God bless you.
George, do I respond now or later?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I think this is a question that many of us would be having in our mind about the difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is actually a tool for spirituality. It's a component of spirituality. Spirituality is wider than religion. So some people will find spirituality through religion, but you don't necessarily have to find it through religion. But perhaps what you find it through is religion by another name, perhaps. So that even others, if they believe in something bigger than themselves, that too is their religion. But I don't like equating religion to spirituality, because as a student of religion, I know that religion is man-made as we experience it. It is very much like a human political government. It has its leaders who are in charge, and sometimes, at the expense of being thrown out of my church, I can say that sometimes our leaders take advantage of us, our religious leaders take advantage of us, very much the same way that political leaders take advantage. But if you rise above religion as a human institution and you think of it as a God-established institution, then probably you may be able to equate religion with spirituality. But we have to be careful. Religion can be abused. It has actually been abused. Actually, religion has been one of the most violent forces in the world, one of the most violent forces in the world. So we want to be careful with religion so that we are not dogmatic to the point of becoming victims of all kinds of religious abuse, like what we saw in Kenya, where so many people were killed in the name of religion. But spirituality is natural. Every human person, whether they know God or they don't know God, whether they believe in Allah or they believe in whatever, it doesn't matter. Every human being has the spiritual component in them. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Now I hear you that in spirituality there is no leader.
Yes.
Like in religion, there is a pope, there is what, but in spirituality, there's no leader. It is you and your spirituality.
Yes, you are your own leader. You listen to your inner self.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. I think I buy the idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kindly allow me to ask a question, Professor Kamaara.
Yes, please go ahead, Arthur.
When you started your lecture, you had pictures of a shell and a glass. But when I look at your picture here on the screen, I see water in the background. That's not Eldoret. So how do you relate that to the spirituality that you've been teaching us a short while ago?
Okay, human beings are very, very, very intelligent, so that with time they have realized that it is possible to create what is not. The same way we can show you a glass when there is no glass. The same way we can show you a shell when there is no shell. We can imagine an ocean even when there is no ocean. Then I can pretend I am in the beach and enjoying myself and change my situation. But this is not spirituality. We know what is happening. We know how, what are they called? Not screensavers, but what are they called? We know how these screens are created. And perhaps in due course, we even understand how spirituality is created. You never know, perhaps we will. But for now, we know there is no magic in what is happening with water behind my back. We know that it's some technological gymnastics.
Yes.
I hope we'll be able to do more research in spirituality and get to a point where we can do some spiritual gymnastics. Thank you. I hope I've responded to your question.
You have, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Richard,
thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, I'm not Richard.
Peter and Richard. Peter, would you like to go first?
Oh, I was going to wait for Richard.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Richard, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. In fact, I don't know whether you can hear me well.
Yes.
Do you hear me properly?
We hear you well.
Thank you. Yes. Someone said to be a well-noted professor, then you should understand the language. You should speak language of even non-living things. But it looks as if my professor who just spoke, who presented, is with some of these languages. Yes, it is true. Non-living things are in their culture, which they understand themselves. I remember some time ago, I was climbing a hill to a church alone in the afternoon, 12 o'clock, and when I raised my head to a crucifix just close to the bell, I saw this statue smiling. In fact, I had a goose pimples, but later I realized, no, I need to stand firm. And some time back to a clothes that I've ironed to be worn on Monday to school. That one too with looking as if trying to speak to me. Hey, I have to go back. Several items that I've witnessed that try to talk to me tells me that non-living things have a living in their own in their own culture, and therefore we need to treat them as ourselves. So I'm so glad you are affirming what I believe, not a belief, not a religious belief, but something that I believe it's existing. So thank you so much for this. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Richard.
Yes.
Peter, and then Afiz, please, Peter.
What a wonderful presentation. It's inspiring and very unusual, in my experience, for someone professing Roman Catholicism to speak about multiple ways of holding religion. I think that's great progress. You reminded me of a favorite joke of mine. A man set a mousetrap and he didn't have any bait, so he put a picture of a piece of cheese in the trap. And in the morning, he found he had caught a picture of a mouse. And the other thing was, I wanted to put something in the chat. It's a link to a page of books by Gabriel Cram, K-R-A-M, who has opened the field of autonomics, which deals with the body as a very big part of the brain, or maybe the brain is a big part of the body. And one of the things that he says is that allopathic medicine, which is Western medicine, doesn't know you're alive. They discovered all the things they know by cutting up dead things. And only recently, they could see in vitro, in the living tissue, there are 9 meters of small nerves per square inch of skin. If you removed everything but the nerves, you would still look like you. That is, we're such a woven fabric of neurological stuff. And I bring this up because Gabriel also studied many indigenous ways of healing and so forth, and relates all this, brings it all together in a way that you seem to be well aware of, and the difficulty of doing that when people are thinking in, they're thinking they see a glass when it's a picture of a glass. So anyway, I just appreciate so much. You've brought something new to the world, and I'm just astonished and delighted, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Afiz, please.
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you, Prof, for the presentation. Actually follow up, and the presentation has actually ignited a lot of thoughts while listening to your presentation, because it's actually made me realize that there is need for self-realization before we can get to the point of self-actualization. And why did I say that? In your presentation, you have talked about spirituality, the self-spirituality. And it's ignited the thought of Socrates that talks about man know thyself. It means if man begins peace by knowing themselves or trying to apply the peace to themselves, because you quoted Mahatma Gandhi that said that there is no way to peace. It is peace that it is peace that is only the key to the peace. So the peace starts from where? From the self, according to your presentation, if I actually get it right. But there is a common saying that Africa spirit. What can you say about Africa spirit? That's one question. Number two, how can we apply the self-spirituality to solve different kinds of challenges and crises and violence and war that human beings are experiencing in this world, despite the fact that we know that religion is a subset of spirituality, because whoever that have a soul have capacity to develop his spirituality. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Afiz. Before Eunice replies to that, I would like to ask Dr. Paul Nyongesa to ask a question or make a comment.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I want to say that, in fact, I already sent something to the chat as a question, but I feel lucky to be working with Professor Eunice in Eldoret, and she has a project supported by Professor Jim Lemons of Indianapolis on training chaplains to introduce spirituality within the healthcare setting. Because here, most times we are just biological, and then sometimes we have also psychological medicine, but the social medicine and the spiritual medicine are almost absent. But I think over the last 2-3 years, there's been some progress. So I want to bring attention to the question which I have on the chat, and I'm just wondering what the United Nations or philanthropy can help, because those are acts by groups of people. And yet we are saying that things must start at individual levels. So what should the United Nations do? Thank you.
All right. Maybe Eunice, you can respond to those before Janet asks her question.
Okay. Thank you, George, and for the opportunity to respond. Thanks to the last two speakers. I appreciate your comments and questions. African spirit. I don't know what African spirit is. I know what African spirituality is. That's the world view, more or less, as far as people should behave. But in terms of spirit, I imagine there is nothing like African spirit. There is only a human spirit. Every human person has that spirit. So what distinguishes it from somebody else is then the spirituality, the world view. But I'm not even sure that we have something we can call African spirit, because not everybody in Africa has the same spirituality. If we did, it would probably be the same spirit. But otherwise, by nature, all human beings are one and the same spirit. And that's why I said, I'm not even sure that what I presented as African spirituality is African spirituality and not indigenous human spirituality. You find it among indigenous Indians, you find it among indigenous communities. The communities that kind of didn't transition so quickly or didn't very fast drop their worldview to quickly pick up a worldview that adores materialism and adores individualism. So basically, I think we all as human beings are one. We have the same spirit, but what we do with that spirit is what then would make a difference. Professor Nyongesa, I appreciate your comments. You're asking what the UN or philanthropic institutions would do or should do. That's probably something that needs to be guided by evidence. We need that, just like we need evidence in biomedicine, we need evidence in spiritual care or in spiritual education, in communities, in families, whatever it is. We need evidence so that we are guided by at least some understanding that everyone can understand or can appreciate. But I can tell you for certain that there are a number of organizations that are doing things around spirituality in the world today. One of the agencies that funded me in my early years as a researcher was the Templeton World Charity Foundation, Inc. It is an agency of John Templeton Foundation in the US. And Templeton Foundation funded my project on character values for young people. It was quite a generous, I can say that in Kenya today without a worry because the grant is gone. But when it was running, I wouldn't have said this, but this was a very generous grant that allowed us to do some work with young people to see how we can support them through transition from childhood to adulthood while inculcating certain values and certain ideals, which we did for quite some time, and anyway, finished the project. So Templeton World Charity Foundation funds what they call invisible realities. I should actually have acknowledged that the term invisible realities is not mine. It's what Templeton funds in the arena of spirituality. So they're already putting their money there. They're already putting their funding in the area of spirituality, however difficult it is to do. And if you look up their site, you'll see they have a lot of research even on forgiveness. What does forgiveness do to you, the person who is forgiving? Forget about the person who is being forgiven. That one may not find much, but you who is forgiving will get a lot. So a lot is being done, but even this is often driven by an individual's conviction. John Templeton Foundation was an individual. He committed his money to that cause because he believed in it. So beginning from the individual is still the key thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. Janet, you're welcome.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your nice summary, George. And that's very helpful. And thank you, Eunice, for this such simple words and metaphors and images that give us such a profound and deep and widespread food for thought. And I've been thinking, I heard someone give a lecture and said we should get rid of all borders. You know, forget about states and, you know, we should get rid of all borders. And I was thinking, yeah, sounds good, but how? And I think that the spirituality that you describe and applies not only to the how to think better about the political sphere, the global sphere, but also the ecological. What is our relationship to the earth that we've so lost? So I'm awed and grateful you gave me some answers I was needing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not a real question, just appreciation.
Thank you so much, Janet. There is actually a question in chat just from Ben Musanzi. Are you able to ask, or should I read it, Ben?
Please read it. Please read. Thank you.
So anyway, he started by saying, many thanks, Eunice, for your presentation. In peace studies, we do say that one of the causes for conflict is our difference. We see the world differently according to our cultures, gender, religion, and so my screen is a bit small, so I can't read very well, sorry.
Would you like help?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, oops, there it goes. So we see the world differently according to our cultures, gender, religion, etc. This is from Ben Musanzi. Some scholars do argue that in time and space, many wars have been fought because of religions unable to unite, as each religion has considered itself superior to others. The same thing we see in racism, tribalism, sexism, or other ideologies like capitalism and communism during the Cold War. What do you respond? A little question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. Quite profound. Yes, like I said, we see the world differently. Why? Because we are different. even you as an individual, you see the world differently in the many persons that you are. Sometimes you see things this way, and at another point you see in a different way. The core question we need to ask ourselves is diversity or is difference a bad thing? Because that is what causes all the quarrels, really. The way I see this thing, it's different. So I will insist on my truth and deny your truth, and you insist on your truth and deny my truth, and before long, we will be holding each other by the collar. But difference is not a bad thing if we look at nature. We only need to read from nature. And nature will tell us, supposing everything was a tree, can you imagine what world would that be? Supposing everything was a chicken, or there were just chickens in the world, what kind of a world is that? God, or the supernatural other, designed, it was not by accident, it was by design, that the world is different, not just in terms of species, but even within species. Biologists know this, that there are very many species within one species. And even in those subspecies, over time, there will even be more differences. And it is a way of keeping the world moving and running and going. The important thing for us to know is that there are many truths. Yours is not the only truth. So allow people to have their truths and keep your truth. In due course, when you get wiser, you might find that their truth is more convincing than your truth, at which point you can then move to the other and join the other. But in the meantime, you don't need to argue, you don't need to quarrel, you don't need to fight over the difference. That difference is a good thing. It helps us see things in many perspectives. And that way we get a whole view. So I would say the biggest spiritual education would be to appreciate that diversity is by design. It is not by accident. And without diversity, we probably would be dead in less than an hour. I don't know, maybe the whole world would just collapse in an hour. So whatever it is you are, whether it's tribe, as a Black person, as a white person, as male, as female, as big, as small, whatever it is, that diversity is what keeps you and us dependent on one another and therefore able to continue living. And ecologists tell us all this time, tell us this all the time. They tell us there is this cycle, this one eats this one and eats this one and eats this. We are dependent on each other because of our diversities. So I think peace studies need to continue preaching and talking about the goodness of diversity, the value of diversity. You can imagine your hand, just think about your hand. Nature has a lot of lessons. If you look at your hand, you have 5 fingers. Those fingers are of different lengths and even sizes. Incidentally, I was very surprised to learn that if all your fingers were the same height, it would be very difficult to pick certain things. To grip, they need to be some smaller, some bigger for you to grip. Even food, basic things like food, you wouldn't eat if your fingers were the same. They looked the same, they were all the straight. Some have to look like this, some have to be small. Yes. That diversity is what makes you able to survive. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much indeed, Eunice. I think we had some more questions in chat, but I'm afraid we don't have enough time for all of them. Let me see how many they are. Oh, actually, I see one from Evelyn. Would you want to ask it? Maybe she can respond to it in a minute. would you like to assist us, Janet, read it from Evelyn, the medical faculty of McMaster University, towards the end?
I think Evelyn is ready to comment or read. Yes?
Yes. Very briefly, McMaster University in Canada realized many years ago that they were only attracting people with very high academic standing, but they were not looking into whether those people actually had the patient care instinct. And so they changed their protocol for admission to make sure that they didn't only bring in the high academic achievers, but also the people that had the caring of patients. And I was wondering, and Cuba's very successful in that. And I was wondering whether your admission protocols look at that and how.
I'm afraid they don't. I don't know what others have to say. The others in the room from other institutions, they can tell us. But at my institution, I haven't heard about that. And that is what mainstreaming spirituality in teaching and learning, in research and service is all about. Thank you. Thank you for sharing about McMaster.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, I think that's the final word, mainstreaming spirituality. So I thank you so much, Eunice, and I thank everybody on this call. Thank you for joining Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa. You have something to say, Eunice, before we close?
Yes, I'm wondering if you're able to share the slides with everybody in the meeting.
We can share that later.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, of course, the recording.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All the best. See you on Wednesday.
All the best to everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank